How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, if you're a supervisor, make sure you're communicating with your partners, your other supervisors. Make sure that you guys know what it is that you expect from each other, and then how that expectation can be translated to the front line in a consistent manner, so the front line is not scrambling, trying to figure out what best approach or what expectations they have to have for the supervisor on shift, as opposed to really looking at what needs to be consistently done for the agency, or on a lesser scale, the department. When you're working for different supervisors who have different expectations, the problem is the front line then doesn't get a chance to carry out momentum, because they're just constantly shifting from the different supervisors and what their expectations are. Jones is different than White. White is different than Smith. And now the front line now has to figure out, well, who am I working for today? Jones? Okay, so Jones wants it this way. Well, who am I working for tomorrow? Smith? Okay, so Smith's going to want it this way. And who am I working for Wednesday? It's White, and White's going to want it this way. And think about that. You got the front line, again, because there's no consistency between the supervisors. You got the front line trying to figure out, what is consistent with personal agendas, as opposed to what really needs to be consistent for the department or agency as a whole. It kills momentum. It kills momentum when I'm, as a front line, I'm trying to be effective and being that go-getter, but then I have to shift each time depending on what supervisor I'm working for. A good example is when you're working for, let's say, a good supervisor who's a go-getter, who empowers their staff, who wants staff to do searches, and who wants staff to be effective. Now, on the adverse side, that's going to be a lot of work for the supervisor, because don't forget, guys, the more effective the front line is, the more work that supervisor is going to wind up having. They're going to have to also take initiative. They're going to have to support the front line and what they're trying to do, which is ultimately making a safe and secured facility. Now, what happens when you have those same go-getter frontline people and they're working for a supervisor who is not such a go-getter? Now, when that supervisor comes to work, you have the front line, they're doing what they got to do, trying to be more effective. And then when they go to push it up to their supervisor, the supervisor is quick to say, yeah, not today. That's for Jones. I'm not beat for that. Today I'm on overtime. So I'm not beat to do all that work. So now you have this great momentum, and it just stopped because there's an inconsistency in what both those supervisors expect. So now the front line, you need momentum, guys. You need momentum to be effective. But now the front line comes to a halt. That little break in consistency between the two supervisors stops the front line. It pushes them back. And now again, instead of the front line trying to be effective for the agency, they look to just deal with the expectations of each individual that they're working for. And I think that's just so unfair. I think the failure to communicate from the supervisors above has affected the front line in such a negative way, where they don't know what to expect. And because they don't know what to expect, they're scrambling. They're losing confidence. Failure to communicate at the highest of level affects those at the lowest of levels. As supervisors, please bring consistency with each other. If you guys don't know what to expect from each other as supervisors, or if you as a supervisor don't know what to expect from the supervisor that's above you, that's going to kill the front line. And when I talk about expect, I'm talking about expectations that lead to consistent practices. So when frontline does something, they know that it's good. That doesn't matter who they got to report to, that this is what's going to be expected. I hate it when you go to work and the first thing you look at is who's the supervisor of that area. And it's like, why are you looking at that? It's because I got to know what they expect. Well, should it matter? Shouldn't matter what supervisor you work for. They should have the same levels of expectation. Because in the end, we don't work for personalized agendas. We work for our agency, our departments. We have to do what's best for them. So with that said, there should be consistency with the supervisors, because in the end, guys, that consistency with the supervisors will help the front line be effective in what it is that they have to do. But again, if the supervisors aren't communicating, you just have people operating in the expectation of that supervisor's personalized agenda as opposed to what's best for the agency or the department. And all that does is create an imbalance. Because again, one day I'm great because that's what White wants. But the next day, let me slow it down because today I got Jones. Look at the break in that momentum. We need to create momentum. And how we create momentum is having consistency. So we need to have the supervisors, they need to connect. They need to all bring expectations at the highest of levels, so we know that we're doing the best work for the agency, for our departments. And in the end, that will translate to the front line. So you start having front line that's pushing towards that expectation. But again, it's not the expectation of Jones. It's not the expectation of White. It's not the expectation of Smith. It's the expectation of the visions and the beliefs that our agency has. And again, guys, the translation of that from the supervisors has to have some level of consistency to be pushed down to the front line. As a supervisor, how you interpret that vision, how you interpret the beliefs of the agency, you need to be able to communicate that with the other supervisors so everybody's on the same page. And then once everybody's on the same page, then you push that high level of expectation out to the front line. So it doesn't matter if I'm working for Jones, White, or Smith. This is what's expected because this is what's expected from the agency, from the department. So again, guys, consistency among supervisors is key. I shouldn't be asking every day who I'm working for. I'm working for the agency. I'm working for the department. I'm not working for your personal agenda, which is different than everyone else's. Thought it was good dialogue, good to know. As always, guys, the show is tipped up. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify every time I post a video. Stay safe. Whoa.